So the idea is of having a continual conversation with God is kind of the foundation for prayer walking, or, when I'm taking students out, prayer driving. But just, pretty much know that, essentially what Jesus says in Matthew 28, verse 20, I'm with you always. The relationship with God is not limited to being in this room or when you're on your knees, but that God is constantly focused on you, really as if there was nobody else. And you reciprocally focused on him, so that, like Paul says, I can do all things through Christ. The idea is that everything you do with him, seeking him, his companionship and his power. So I wore my shirt today, my fire shirt. See? I recently retired from the fire department, but I started fighting fire in 1994 when I was on staff at Laurelbrook. And whenever I went to a fire, I was young, enthusiastic, full of energy. And, have in my bedroom my fire radio. And, there's a certain tone, which is the tone for your unit. When you hear that tone, you go from however deep in sleep you are to instantly wide awake. If it's a different tone, somebody else's tone, you don't, you kind of hear it in your sleep. But if it's your tone, you go straight up to awake. And I would launch out of bed like a rocket, and my clothes would be on, in just seconds. And I would be ready to run out the door. And my wife worried every single time I went to a fire. She was always afraid that something would happen, maybe I wouldn't come back. And so she would stop me every single time before, took off for the fire, and she would have prayer with me. And, that would take about a minute or so. And then I would go to the fire. And I always knew that Christ was with me. So I was never afraid, even circumstances that were, should make you afraid, I suppose. And because I knew that Christ was with me all the time, I had a certain level of courage, so they always asked me to do dangerous stuff. So there was a nursing home where we were, there was smoke, but they didn't know where the fire was. So they sent me up into the attic, go find the fire. So I'm, crawling around the attic to find the source, of all the smoke. That didn't bother me. One time I was fighting a fire in a mobile home, and the floor gave out from underneath me, but nothing that happened frightened me, because I always knew that Christ was with me. But when we moved over here to Heritage, I wasn't on the fire department, and I didn't have fire gear. But one night, in the middle of the night, I got a phone call. My wife answers the phone, and she says, Mr. Dell's house is on fire. So I'm instantly awake, throw on my clothes, and then I remember, oh yeah, I don't have a fire truck. So I'm thinking, wow, what am I going to do without a fire truck, without a fire hose, And nevertheless, she has prayer with me, and she hustles me out the door. And I go driving up to his house, and the fire is in his laundry room. And so, the flames are coming out of the back door of his house. And this is just amazing. I imagine you won't believe me. I go running to the fire. I open the door, which, the handle of the door should be really hot, and I didn't have any fire gear on, but it didn't burn my hand. I go inside the house. I don't have any fire gear on. I don't have a breathing apparatus, but I don't have any problems breathing in there. I see the fire, tall column of flame, and I realized what it was. There's a gas line that feeds the dryer, and I realized that it was being fed by the gas. So I told somebody to go and shut off the gas. And then somebody brought me a hose so I could fight the fire. It was a garden hose. And it was a garden hose that dribbled. So I hold the hose and just little dribbles of water, and so, I in faith, I took my fire hose and I flicked my dribbles of water onto the tower of flame. And the most amazing thing is, my little dribbles of water put that fire out. And then the fire had spread into his living room. So then there was they started a bucket brigade. And so they were filling up 5-gallon buckets of water and passing them to me and another guy who was inside. And so we're dumping 5-gallon buckets of water on the fire that's in the living room. And we put it out, and we put it out pretty quickly. And then the fire department arrived after, we'd been there for 30 minutes. Just really an incredible answer to prayer. Everything that, Mr. Dell was trying to fight the fire, he was in the same room that I was in. He got burns on his back from stuff that was falling. But I was in the same room and nothing happened to me at all. No fire gear, nothing. So the point that I'm trying to make is that if you know Christ, He is always with you, just like He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And if you hold this in your heart, you can ask the simplest things, and He does the most extraordinary things for you, in you, through you. Now, you guys might remember I told you a prayer about when we were in Mexico and we were doing an evangelistic series and we were going to have the kids go and there was a terrible storm. Do y'all remember that story? So if you go down the hall, there's one of our students who graduated, Ashley Clark. Following that, we were back here on campus and, we did outreach every Friday. Like we're doing now. And Ashley, we had really, in essence, I would say Satan was challenging us every Friday. So, you want to go do outreach, you want to go door to door, but it rained every Friday. And so every Friday, we would have prayer, and it would stop raining reliably every single time. So, I had different students doing different things, some going to take care of little kids and, some going to nursing homes. So there's a variety of things. So not everybody was out with me, doing door-to-door stuff every Friday. But this Friday, Ashley was going to be doing that. And so I went to the girls' dorm, which is now it's the guys' dorm is the old girls' dorm. So I went there to pick her up, and then I was going to go and pick the boys up from the boys' dorm, which is now the guest room. And so I pick her up, and she's the only one in the van with me, and it is pouring, really pouring. Now, I guess I should say this. my character isn't perfect. I have some flaws. And one of my flaws was evidenced shortly before that because one of the staff members told me before I got in the van that I was out of my mind to take the kids out in this kind of weather. And I said in an arrogant but matter-of-fact way, listen, somebody's going to pray and then it's going to stop raining. And, again, they thought I was an idiot. So then I pick up Ashley in the van, and Ashley's talking to me, and she's saying, I've heard so many stories of people praying and then it stops raining. And I said, yeah, that's really true. And she said, well, do you think God would answer my prayer? And I said, well, what did you pray? And she said, I prayed that it would stop raining. And I said, well, then that's it. It's going to stop raining. Because I was confident, because I knew that Jesus was always with me and he was active with everything that I was doing. And so between being at what is the boys' dorm now and being at what is our guest room now, it stopped raining really fast. And a strong wind came, and the whole sky just turned blue. Now, I watched the news later that night. It rained everywhere else in Tennessee all day long. But where we were, it did not rain. Then a couple years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, at graduation, I haven't been as involved in outreach like I was in those earlier years. So at graduation, I knew before graduation that it was supposed to rain on graduation day, supposed to pour all day long. And we have never had a graduation that's rained out. And when we have our graduation, we line up, all the graduates along the sidewalk, and then people come and shake their hands, and it's really, quite a tradition for us. But I knew that it was going to rain. So I was preparing the students starting on Monday, as we're practicing for graduation. So instead of bringing them outside, in our practice, I'm lining them up at the back of the gym, and, we're just going to have everybody come and shake your hand at the back of the gym. So about Thursday, and all the ceremonies start on Friday. So on Thursday, when we're practicing, they said to me, if it doesn't rain, can we do this, on the sidewalk? And I'm like, yeah, well, sure, but it's supposed to rain. And so what they said bothered me. And so on Sunday morning, when we're having graduation, it is raining as predicted. And I normally meet with all the students, the juniors and the seniors, in classroom 3 before we start the program. And it's kind of a emotional time. It's our last time we're ever going to be together as a group and have the last prayer of blessing over them. So I'm praying, that the Lord would bless them. And then my prayer becomes very awkward because I'm feeling this conviction. You should pray that it doesn't rain. And in my mind, I'm saying, if we were going to go in the community and do outreach or do something like that, I could pray that prayer and I'd have all kinds of confidence that the Lord would answer it. But, to pray that it doesn't rain just because of our graduation, that just seems too much. So these are the thoughts, and I'm not speaking, right? I'm just paused in my prayer, and everybody can kind of feel the awkwardness in the room. And so then I go and I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'll pray it, and I pray this really, really lame, awkward-sounding prayer, so it's, Lord, if you want, I don't want it to be too much of a bother, but, could you just, stop the rain? But if not, I understand. Stupid, faithless sounding prayer, right? So then after I'm done with my stupid prayer, right, all morning, I'm sitting up on the stage, and I'm wondering if the Lord's going to answer my prayer, and you can't really see anything, from up on the stage, but I've spoken to Miss Miriam, and she'll be at the back of the gym, and so if it's not raining, she's going to direct us out the door. Otherwise, she's going to direct us, to line up. And so I really don't know until the very end of the service when we're all marching out. And then, I look at the back of the gym, and I see her directing everybody out the door. And I come out, and we go out the door, and it's a clear, crystal clear blue sky. I mean, a morning like today. It was just unbelievable. Anyhow, it's not a testament that I've achieved great faith, because I'm telling you, my prayer was lame, right? It was marginal faith. But what Jesus says is, if you have the faith, the grain of a mustard seed, you'll ask what you will, and it'll be done unto you. And, if we cultivate the habit that Christ is with us always, as he said, Matthew 28, verse 20, "Lo, I am with you always, even to the end of time." If we always know that he's our companion, if we always know that he's listening to us, that he's watching over us, that he's ordering everything around us, if we have faith in that, he does the most amazing, remarkable things. And it's not a great faith. And it's not an enormous faith. That's a mustard seed size faith. And anyhow, God rewards the smallest amount. So I want to encourage you to step up. And remember, God doesn't answer prayers because we're great. He answers prayers because we're so small. If we can remember that we're small, like the mustard seed, we can see great things. Let's have a closing word of prayer. Father in heaven, and thank you for the great grace that you've shown in my life. And I pray that your grace would be magnified and multiplied in the lives of our students, that they would know you, that they would know you to the core of their being, that they would know you through answered prayer, that they would know you through a deep conviction in their heart that you are always with them. And pray this blessing on each one in Jesus' name. Amen. Peace.